What's going on, y'all? Alright, so this video, get straight to the point. Please be sure to, if you appreciate this information and appreciate my time and energy, please like, share, comment, and if this is YouTube, make sure you guys subscribe to stay in tune and updated with new material. We're going to go over the birth certificate, the authentication process, and why it is of ultimate importance to our process of status correction. I've been seeing some people in the groups, inside the Facebook groups in particularly, everybody inside the Hellraiser Legacy hasn't been having any problems or whatever, because they're pretty good at following instruction for the most part, for the majority of us that's in there. If you're not a part of the Hellraiser Legacy and the Hellraiser movement, be sure to join by clicking the link somewhere below in the description of the video. It's for more videos and to gain access to our resource center as well as our network center with other members across the U.S. that are also in the process of going through their own journeys within the process. All right, so first I'm going to go to the exact step-by-step on how to authenticate the birth certificate. All right, now, how to authenticate the birth certificate. Step 1, you're going to retrieve your certificate of live birth. Your certificate of live birth, depending on what state you're in, it could be called a long form or either the certificate of live birth or the long form. I believe they have one more name for it. But ultimately, you want to get the birth certificate that has all of the vital information on it, such as your the hospital name, the hospital address, the date that the actual certificate was registered at your local registrar. It's going to have the bond number at the top. It's called the child's birth number. And it's going to have the time you were born and also your doctor's signature. Also, it has the state license number, which is what you need off that too. So you're going to need that birth bond number that's at the top. And you're going to need that state license number that's somewhere towards the middle at the bottom. And you want that date received by local registrar. And that is the date that your bond was recorded. It's usually a few days after you was born, or up to probably a few weeks. That's how you know you have your actual certificate of live birth. Hopefully, you guys can get a glimpse of that. See, I have my original, because my father took good care of it. So shout out to him for that. So he had my original, so I didn't have to go through the process of harassing the county courts, city courts, or the contacting the Department of Vital Statistics. These are the places where you're going to go to retrieve your certificate of live birth. Now, a lot of these places are going to act like they're not familiar with it, or that they're going to try to convince you that the certificate, that the birth certificate, that the certified birth certificate that they give you is the same thing as certificate of live birth. You explain to them, no, it isn't. You know, and if they give you problems at the courthouse, then you order it straight from the Vital Statistics. Now that I don't have the exact link for right now, but I'll post it in there once I get it out the group again. I didn't have to go there to get mine. So once you retrieve, if you're able to get it from the county, first go to your county courts and buy a copy, whatever copy they have, because that copy might actually be a certificate of live birth, And they're not going to say that, but if you look at the copy, you can tell it's the actual certificate of live birth. Some county courts actually have your certificate of live birth. Some don't. It all depends. Everybody's situation is going to vary. If they don't provide the actual certificate of live birth, because it should be like $17 for one, and usually they give you 2 copies for an extra couple dollars. So it's good to have multiples of those on deck too. Anyway, for other possible court issues in the future. So if you have to go to the vital statistics department, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, but it's worth it. I've heard anything between $40 to $70. Whatever it costs, go ahead and order it. Once you receive the certificate of live birth, this is what you need. You're gonna go to the Secretary of State, the full service Secretary of State. I say full service because all Secretary of States are not full service. You'll know if it's a full service Secretary of State if you go there and you ask them to direct you to the index department. If they don't have an index department, that's not a full service Secretary of State. Now, once you find your full service Secretary of State, you're gonna go to the index department and you're telling them, you go to the window and let them know that you're trying to authenticate your certificate of live birth or birth certificate. Use whatever lingo that suits them. You said, you don't want to get all into detail on what you're doing. Never reveal what you're doing. You don't want to go to the slave master's house. You're in the yard. Why would you go? If you got to go in the house to retrieve something for your freedom, why would you go in the house and let him know you planning on escaping? You see what I mean? That don't even make sense. If you ask him for the keys to the yard, you need to be telling him like, yeah, you need the keys to the yard so I can fetch some more cotton, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? You don't say, yeah, so it can aid me in escaping this motherfucker. No, you don't do that. We got to be careful with the words we're using inside of these offices. We don't say nothing about sovereignty. Don't say nothing about UCC. Don't say nothing about status correction. Don't say nothing about Moorish, American stuff. Don't say none of that stuff. You can say what you want to say. But hey, my opinion, my advice, don't do it if you want to have a smooth transition. Now, they're going to say, okay, let me see the document. They're going to say, okay, they're going to give you a short form. Everybody's form could be different. They give you a 1-page authentication form. You're going to fill out that form. All the information they're going to ask you is all of your personal information that you're going to clearly know. So I don't have to tell you that. The only thing that differs that you can make sure that you have is you need to make sure that when it asks you the country of origin, you're gonna say Taiwan. We'll get into that later. Now, once you do that, give the person at the window the application back. It's gonna be about $3. They're gonna say, okay, give us a second. 5 minutes pass, 5 minutes or so, depending on how busy they are. They're gonna say, okay, here you go. Now, when they get done, they're gonna give you your certificate of live birth back, along with a state sealed document. So also they'll have a sticker, a state seal, a gold seal, which mine is up here. They actually folded it on top of the certificate of live birth onto the cover page, and also has a state seal right there. Once they give you that, you walk out. Congratulations, you have successfully authenticated your birth certificate on the state level. Next, you have to authenticate it on the federal level. So you take that same packet, do not ever detach it, or it will be void. Now you're gonna get this form for the Department of State. You're gonna download this form. It's called the DS4194. You're gonna download this form, fill it out as normal, your name, phone number, email if you want, country, and everything else. Now, remember, the same thing that you did on the state version, you're gonna do on the federal level too. Once it says country, you're gonna put Taiwan right here. Everything else is gonna be as normal. Want to ask you for country, you're gonna put Taiwan. All right. Once you get all this once you get this form done, you're gonna put Taiwan right here on the second page too. Also, number of documents. Should be it's 2 documents. You're gonna put Taiwan, document type, certificate of live birth, birth certificate, either or, and that's that. Now, once you completed that, you're gonna package that up, go to the post office. You're gonna get a prepaid envelope to put inside of the envelope that the packages that the contents are in, with an $8 money order, so that once they get done authenticating the birth certificate, they can send it back to you, and it's already paid for. So you're paying for the authentication, and you're also paying for the prepaid envelope, stamped envelope, to return back to you. The return process will take 2 to 3 weeks. Be patient. Now, notice I didn't say anything about an apostle form. I didn't say anything about affidavit of truth. I didn't say anything about anything else that you people are sending in to these officials. Nothing else is needed for the authentication process. The only additional document that you're going to attach to the authenticated copy, the fully authenticated copy of your birth certificate, this is how it looks when you get it back. Once you receive this from the Department of State, your birth certificate has been fully authenticated. Now you're going to put a claim of ownership of that by adding an affidavit of ownership. Something like this. All right, so United States of America, Department of State, to whom these presents shall come. I'm sorry, that's not it. That's what they sent back to you. I'm sorry. So affidavit of ownership. Okay, your state. You say I have state of Indiana, county, lake. In reply to birth certificate, I, the undersigned, and lawful age, and being first duly sworn on oath, depose and state that I am familiar with the facts recited, and the party named in the said birth certificate is the same party as one of the owners named in the said birth certificate of title. Here's your autograph, and this is where you get it notarized. Signed and sealed by the notary. The combination of the duly certified certificate and the attached claim is what is known as a counter deed. From the perspective of trust law, you now hold in your hand a deed to you, in which now you have interest in, lawful interest in. From the perspective of common law, you hold a first in time, first in line document to you, In other words, you are now the real party in interest and holder in due course to title to you. Now that is status correction. And shout out in all due respect to Jonah Bay for putting all this information together and making this information valid, or this process and remedy valid. Now, so let's go up here. Let's go to understanding why this is necessary. The birth certificate is the primary document used to enslave us all. Not only does it grant the state the right to take our children whenever they want to, it is registered as security at the DTC, the Depository Trust Company. I know everybody's stuck on the TDA and stuff like that, but not a lot of people are familiar with the DTC. Now, the use and used by the government as a surety for public debt. In other words, you can tax the person named on that document into oblivion to pay back federal debt. Under the democracy, as long as we keep registering our children with the state, they have an endless supply of slaves. Is to regain birth title as opposed to birth certificate of title. So you have to regain birth title. Now, what follows, well, I'm not going to go through all that. Now, okay, another major key. The process is the Minnesota Code Court Rule 220. In all other states, as I examined, including Oklahoma, the laws and nature related to the birth registration process is hidden. For the most part, you can find is a blurb on some Department of Vital Statistics webpage that to the effect that the birth registration began in 1920. If we now remember that date, if we find a roadmap in one state, it should and does apply to all. Minnesota Road 220, this is for birth certificates. The registration of titles is authorized to receive for registration of memorials upon any outstanding certificate of title and an official birth certificate pertaining to pertaining to a registered owner named in said certificate of title showing the date of birth and said registered owner, providing there is attached to said birth certificate affidavit of an affiant who states that he or she is familiar with facts recited, stating that the party named in the said birth certificate is the same name as the party as one of the owners of said certificate of title, and that thereafter the registrar of title shall treat said registered owner as having attained the age of maturity at the date of 18 years after the date of birth shown on said certificate. You say, so what is this saying? The birth certificate is a certificate of title, just like your car. You have the right to use that name, but the state has legal title and controlling interest in the property, the name. Okay, that's important. So, just like this certificate of title, just like your car, you have the right to use the name, but the state has legal title and controlling interest in the property, the name, which is not you, but we are contracted in commerce in a way that makes it us, or liable. So, let's go over the car scenario. And I've always used this in my examples. If I sell you a car for $10,000, you give me $10,000, and I say you don't know any better. You just turned 18, and you want to get your first car. So in your mind, all you know is, hey, find a car, ask the price, pay the money, get the keys. It's not as of great priority and understanding to some 18-year-olds that are not educated in that matter yet. The importance of the actual title. an 18-year-old teenager will very well give a person $10,000 to purchase a vehicle, and then the person can tell, the seller can tell the 18-year-old, like, hey, the title is in the mail, it'll be here in a couple weeks, but as soon as it gets here, I'll call you. Or simply, that could be true, or it could be false. It could be that they never had the title and can't get the title back for whatever reason. But they're trying to, pull a scam real quick just to get some money out the vehicle, get rid of the vehicle. So they'll pretty much prey on the immature, buyers. So the 18-year-old gives me the $10,000. I give them the keys. In their mind, they believe that they own the vehicle, that they have the vehicle, that they just purchased the vehicle. Now, true enough, they're the holders of the keys of the property, and they actually hold the property. They actually have the benefit of utilizing the property by driving around XYZ. But that's only temporarily until the point of them actually getting pulled over because they haven't registered the vehicle, they haven't done this, they haven't gotten a sticker, whatever the case is. Because that person, or whoever that person is, whose name is on the certificate as the owner of the vehicle, is still technically by law the owner of the vehicle, and so the owner of the vehicle actually transfers title ownership of the vehicle to the new buyer. Now, fast forward. Even if that transaction went as it should, and that person exchanged title along with keys, once money was presented, once that title is still gonna have the state that you're in, or that car or property was registered to at the top of the title, which is their claim, their superior claim and interest over the property, which still makes the person that owned the vehicle, that was on the title, still just a holder in due course of the title, and not the owner of the title. So hopefully you guys understand that analogy and concept. Registering our vehicles to register means to give ownership to. That's the whole reason why they want you to register your vehicles, register our property. If we didn't register, they wouldn't have lawful rights to tow our vehicles, apply boots to our vehicles, tickets and citations, etc., etc. So they have to have the person register, or the citizens register their property into their registrars to gain superior title over the property. So how does this happen? It's all voluntary. We enslave ourselves more and more every day voluntarily because of lack of knowledge, information, and direction. So that is the purpose of authenticating the birth certificate, because if we skip this process and we don't understand this process in conjunction with other processes, UCC or whatever, you contradict the purpose of the process. The process is to gain ownership of your corporate entity. The purpose of gaining ownership of the corporate entity is to gain interest of the corporate entity. Other than that, it'd be pointless. You need superior title over the original docs, over the original bond, over the original contract. If you don't have superior title ownership over that, and they do, you're still technically a slave to the state and to the government. I'm trying to figure out what don't people understand about this. This is the first thing we have to solidify and correct our status in. The next thing is the proper use of the social, but we're not going to get into that. So how are we, for those talking about they're not going to do this, they're going to go straight to the treasury, they're going to open up this account and do this and hire this person to do this and do that. This is the thing. Even if you people do gain some success in skipping certain processes, my thing is this. If I spend all this time and money climbing the ladder and building success through process from process, I don't want to get to the point of success up here, but have ignorantly missed a vital step down here that leaves me vulnerable when I'm up here for the oppressor to kick the ladder from beneath me and bring me right back down to his captivity. I don't want to do all that. I can't afford that. So I'm going to put in more time and effort to making sure I covered all my ground before I start running. It's called crawling before you walk. Everybody just want to speed, just want to cut through the line. You see what I mean? Everybody just want to shoom. That's it. And that's how fast you're going to be right back at point A. See, the people that are just out here doing shit, you are not putting yourself in position to have the proper protection and personal insurance for yourself and proper security for yourself. Meaning, when you get challenged and when they challenge you, you will not only not know how to proceed, respond, and react, you're not going to have nothing to back you up in what the fuck you're doing and what you're saying. You're going to be saying this, but not have the paperwork or the body of work to back up your claim. Oh, this is my car. This is my car. This is my car, right? I wanted the car so bad. I forgot to get the damn title. I said, fuck the title. I wanted the car. Here go the money. I got the keys. It's my car. It's my car. Right? Or you financing the vehicle. It's your car, right? You can say that to other people, but technically, no, it's not your car. You leasing the car. It's your car, right? No, it's not your car. You're leasing the car. They can take that shit back whenever. You financing the car? Don't pay the note. I bet the owners come back and get that motherfucker. Same thing. Wanna know why? Because they have the title. They have the title. That's the whole purpose of this portion of the status correction. And this type of status correction, the initial status correction. It's not the only status correction. But we gotta start from where it started. How are we skipping to some other shit? The same thing applies with our marriage certificates if we're married. All it's the same deal. The same deal. We can't call these places and be like, ask them how do we correct our status. We want to reclaim ownership of titles if they're going to give you directions. So no, we have to find, what you got to understand is the oppressor, by law, they legally fuck us. That's what we understand, for the most part. They legally screw us because they mask the law. They wrap citations and statutes. They wrap statutes and regulations, rules and regulations around law, in which is presented and promoted as law, and due to the ignorance of the people, we accept it as law. So we respect it and submit to them as law. So within that, they have to give us remedy. But they don't have to give us remedy in plain sight. But they have to give us remedy by law to cover their asses. It's up to us to connect the dots of this fucking jigsaw puzzle. All right, so let's skip over. Now, okay. Here's a nice document I just found. Structure of the birth certificate. Structure of the birth certificate. Did the state pledge your body to a bank? Right. Some birth and marriage certificates are now warehouse receipts, printed on banknote paper, which may mark you and yours as chattel property of the banks of our government that our government borrows money from every day. A certificate is a paper establishing ownership claim. Okay? Ownership claim. Barron's Dictionary of Banking Terms. Registration of births began in 1915. Remember that date, right? So, it began in 1915 by the Bureau of Census, which all states adopting the practice by 1933. Remember, 1933 is an important year. That's the redemption movement, when the government confiscated all the gold from the American people. Remember, we got to understand where history connects itself, where all the bullshit began. Once they confiscated the gold from the American people, before they confiscated the gold of the American people were all secure parties. Now, so because we had gold and silver, we had the true currency. They take the gold from and silver from the American people, start giving them birth certificates, social security numbers, and now using them as collateral, putting them to work up under the Social Security, and now making them liable to pay taxes for the debt of the bankrupt corporation called America, by way of IRS Form 1040. Birth and marriage certificates are a form of securities called warehouse receipts. The items included on the warehouse receipt, as described as U.S. Constitution 7202, the Uniform Commercial Code, the law which governs the commercial paper and transactions which parallel a birth or marriage certificate are. The location of the warehouse where goods are stored is called a residence. So the location of where the warehouse where the goods are stored is referred to as the resident. So if you are a resident, remember we talk about resident, because as a resident, we had to bust out our Black's Law Dictionary. Fourth edition. As a resident, you're within the jurisdiction of the American corporation that enslaves you. The zip code, the address. Remember those three words. Zip code, address, residence. The date of issue of the receipt is the date issued. The date issued, that the date that's right around your birthday, that's on the bottom of your birth certificate that I told you need. Also, I believe it's a 9-digit number. Yeah, the 9-digit number that's on the top of your authenticated certificate of live birth needs to be claimed in the collateral section of your UCC1 as well. We'll get into that number later. The consecutive number of the receipt is found on the back or the front of the certificate using the red numbers. Now, the description of goods or of the packages containing inside are labeled as name, sex, date of birth, etc. That's the description of goods. That's how they categorize us. The properties. The signature of the warehouseman, which may be made by this authorized agent, municipal clerk, or state registrar's signature, which is on your birth certificate. Now, birth/marriage certificates now appear to at least qualify as warehouse receipts under the Uniform Commercial Code. Remember, all this stuff is still reflecting back to the Uniform Commercial Code because remember, the Uniform Commercial Code governs all commercial law and all commercial law dealing any type of monetary transactions. That's why we have to utilize and understand the Uniform Commercial Code. Now, in Black's Law Dictionary, 7th edition defines warehouse receipt as such: a warehouse receipt, which is considered a document of title, may be a negotiable instrument. What is a negotiable instrument? Federal Reserve notes, promissory notes, checks, money orders. It's a negotiable instrument. And it's often used for financing with inventory as security. Okay. Since the U.S. went bankrupt in 1933, all new money has been borrowed into existence. Remember, you see on the dollar bill and on the money that we use, is backed by the faith and credit of the American people. What is faith? A faith is a belief, meaning that the dollar bill only has this piece of shit paper that they can print unlimited of, only has value because the people believe it does. If the people did not believe it was, it would not have any value whatsoever. All right, what else we got? Full faith and credit of the American people and said to, yeah. See, what we got to understand is when we look up our birth certificates, numbers, bond numbers and stuff on Fidelity.com and Treasury Direct, stuff like that, that's proof that, yeah, this bond is being traded upon and has been traded upon since it's been registered. Now, if it's considered property and property of a certain value amount, when you look up your certificate, your bond on the Treasury Direct website, you'll see something strange on there that has different options that show you maturity dates. And it's kind of funny, the maturity date, the first maturity date is 18 years after the person was born. So, what does that tell you? Maturity never actually they was never talking about maturity as far as like, hey, a person is like immature or some shit like that, like childish. They were talking about maturity date as far as stocks and bonds are concerned. So maturity dates of a birth bond is 18 years, 21 years, and I believe 35 and something else. So don't quote me on the other two, but 18 is the first age of maturity, then 21, and then I believe it's two more. Now after that, after the final maturity, it doesn't really grow as much. So after the final maturity, after the final biggest maturity date or time surpasses, the government is looking for us to pretty much drop dead. Because what happens to property that is not claimed by its rightful owner. It gets claimed or reclaimed by a third party that knows that property has not been claimed. You work at a hotel, front desk. A guest leaves their watch. Work at a hotel in Texas. Person lives in Georgia. They go back. You guys housekeeper finds the watch, turns it into the front desk. They put it into the lost and found. They have a certain policy where the materials or properties from guests stay there, let's say 20 to 30 days. And then after 20 to 30 days, whatever's inside the lost and found is up for grabs for the employees. The same fucking concept relates to the unclaimed property of our personal unclaimed property dealing with the birth certificate. So when we die, I believe, is when they actually gain full interest of the birth certificate. I believe that's when they cash the fuck out. That's why they need a certain amount of us. They need a certain amount of us to be. They want a certain amount of us to be born, and due to different depopulation methods, such as vaccines, the food chain, fast food, and other bullshit ass food that we feed our bodies, drugs, alcohol, violence, sexually transmitted diseases, stress, all that shit is to make sure that the lifespan of the human being is decreased. So by the time of the last age of maturity of that bond, you can die, they can claim, and another one is reborn, and the cycle continues over and over again. The value of these certificates are so great and high because they're betting on the whole point of how many people are really going to catch on and really have the time and really gain the right enough knowledge and information and know-how to really truly reclaim themselves and resecure the property. What happens when you die? You get a death certificate. Which is a bond. The shit goes over and over and over and over again. So we get a birth certificate when we're born, which is in which they incorporate. So now we're corporate. They put us into a corporate entity, or in conjunction with a corporate entity, which is a corpse. A corpse is dead, resembles death, which is dead. It's not a live being. And now when we're dead, we get a death certificate. So now we got two dead people here. We got a dead corporate and a dead person, which they still gonna make money off of. It's an endless cycle. It's an endless cycle. Those who skip this process, be my guest. You got to be extremely patient when dealing with these circumstances and these situations and going through these processes. You got to make sure you cover as many areas as possible. Now, I think this is all I'm gonna go through with it on this this document. Yeah, man, this stuff. This is the reason why the government can take our children and all type of shit. Because you gotta remember, the registration of the birth certificate, us registering the kids with the government by way of birth certificate. Now the kids become wards of the state. So ultimately, legally, they're the parents. we're not able to handle matters to take matters into our own hands. Anyway, that's it. Oh, one more thing. This is where you supposed to. This is how the address should be written out when sending your certificate of live birth to the Department of State to get authenticated on the federal level. This is how it looks. I'll leave these two documents. Well, these two documents are in the, or I'll add this one today. So these documents will be inside the Resource Center at thehellraiserlegacy.com. The link is inside the description. Join the movement, support the movement, and become the movement. Hopefully we don't have to go back on this topic of authenticating the birth certificate. It entails more as far as information history. You have to do your homework. You have to do your own homework. But I'm not one of the people that say, oh, just do your homework and don't give you any type of how-tos. I told you exactly how to do it first, and then I gave you a brief understanding of the history and the purpose of authentication. And I'm telling you where the material is to continue on doing your own due diligence. So please, let's get this shit right, man, so we can move on. Peace.